Once upon a time, about 33 years ago, Mr. Robert thought it would be nice to live in the countryside. He decided to move to Soham. Mr. Robert loved it. So too did Mrs. Robert. And as their children grew up, they loved to see Mr. Diesel and his super-duper friends whose trains passed their lovely new house. As the years went by and the children grew and slowly left home, one day Mr. Robert decided to move. Not far, just across the road in fact, to a bit of land he owned and loved and where he could still catch sight of Mr. Diesel. Mr. Robert was ready to retire. "I know what we'll do," he exclaimed one morning. "We'll build 2 houses there and our bestest friends can live next door." He popped a letter and some forms in the post to Mr. Planner, and then he waited. It wasn't good news. "You're too far out of town," hissed Mr. Planner. "You're not sustainable," Mr. Planner guffawed. "And your friend, Mr. Diesel," said Mr. Planner, "isn't a friend at all. He's noisy, smelly, and generally not nice." Mr. Robert tried again. He wrote more letters to Mr. Planner and told him 4 times of his rather modest dream. Mr. Planner consulted his chum, Mr. Committee. One day, Mr. Robert got a visit from Mr. Planner and a whole line-up of Mr. Committees. They tumbled out of Mr. Bus, waved briefly to Mr. Diesel, who remained very quiet that day like he really does most days, and then they went off. One day, a few weeks later, Mr. Postman popped by with an official-looking letter telling Mr. Robert that Mr. Planner and Mr. Committees were about to meet again. He checked the day, checked the time, and he asked of his friend, Mr. Bovingdon, who had helped him at some point as well, would he attend? But he didn't, I'm afraid. No one was there to tell Mr. Planner and Mr. Committees why he wanted to build his 2 houses, and Mr. Robert, not knowing the rules, was told to keep quiet. The plans got turned down. Mr. Robert was angry. He heard how Mr. Mayor was able to build his new home just yards up the road from him, but Mr. Robert was told his own home simply wasn't grand enough. "They told me they were looking for a grand design, flowing lines and arches," said Mr. Robert. "I explained I couldn't afford that sort of design." His retirement dream on hold, Mr. Robert is deciding what next he can do. In the meantime, he waits and wonders what might have been. Part 2 to come, how Mr. Traveller offered to buy the land. That's due out shortly.